Hey, welcome into the HUBCast. It's Tuesday, November 15th, and the regulars are here plus one. I'm Adam Alexander, Max and Russell.
You can call me Mac.
Big Mac and Russell along for the ride. And look who's over here to my right, Andy Petree, making a special appearance.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You feeling any pressure or anything?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Now, I got to tell you, this seat has been a little bit of a revolving door. CJ is our regular, and he does a great job of facilitating the questions at the end.
Do I have to do that?
No, you don't have to do that. But we are going to bring CJ in for some questions. He was on vacation last week, so we had Josh in here, Josh Richter, and Josh was okay. He was okay, but we're glad that CJ is back. And we'll have him later in the show, and we're glad you're here.
I hope I can be okay. Then.
Yeah, you'll be okay, I'm sure. We can kind of coach you up a little bit. Here we are. We got the Championship 4 and two Gibbs cars there, Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards. Of course, we knew Carl was going to be there after winning at Texas a couple of weeks ago. Jimmy Johnson wins at Martinsville. He's going to Homestead for the first time. And I think Joey Logano has taken a huge step in his career with a big win at Phoenix and going to have his second run at a championship in this format when you look at the Championship 4. So what I want to do today is I want to rank the Championship 4 drivers, kind of seed them 1 to 4. Each of us are going to do it. We're going to start out with our number 4 guy. None of us know who's where on what list. Max, you get us started, buddy.
My number 4 is going to be Joey Logano. And that's less of a reflection on Joey as it is on how strong those other guys are. And we'll hit on those later, but my number 4 would be Joey.
Joey Logano's your number 4. Your number 4, Russell, is who?
I hate this, but it's Joey Logano as well.
Okay.
Did you steal my answers?
And why?
Well, he's all about the stats, though. He knows what he's talking about.
I think the numbers do say that, and I think this could be won or lost on pit road as well.
Yeah.
We remember what happened to Joey Logano.
I mean,
the last time he was in
normally
this
you'd say that's what
position.
lost him the championship, but it certainly is what took him out of contention
Correct.
to
Absolutely.
win, right? I mean, it wasn't make or break on that stop, but because they had that stop, they lost their opportunity. Andy, who's your number 4?
I disagree with both of these guys because Joey's got the momentum. From a second-place finish at Texas to a first-place finish last week, he has learned a lot about how to handle that last race at Homestead. I think he's going to be a real threat. My number 4...
I can't wait for this.
The defending champion, Kyle Busch.
You know, it's really funny. So we got 2 over there for Joey Logano. We got 2 over here for Kyle Busch. And it seems crazy, but his numbers at Homestead aren't unbelievable, right? I mean, he won there last year.
Not great, but yeah.
But I would say this, too, about Kyle Busch. That team, to me, and I realized when he won the championship last year, he hadn't won since Indianapolis, and then he goes to Homestead and wins. And his chase numbers this year are better than they were last year. I mean, he outside of Talladega, he's averaging like 4.8 or 4.6.
It's very similar, though, to last year.
It is. I mean, he's had a really good playoff run. I just think, they have had to nickel and dime this thing to death to get back to where they are. Sunday's a perfect example. I mean, they finished great.
They barely
have a strong
made it
race
in.
car. Yeah.
I mean, they really, if that last caution doesn't come out.
I just feel like they're missing something. They have a lot of intangibles, but I just feel like something is missing. And, hey, we're splitting hairs here when you got to rank these 4, right? But I
thought he showed a lot of speed at the end of that race last week. I mean, he was one of the fastest cars on track. He got burned by track position on that last caution. He had passed Joey Logano, but they went back to the scoring loop. He got to go to second.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he got burned? Those are the rules. Go back to the previous scoring loop. That's how we do it.
But hold on.
That.
If the caution would have came out a half a second later, he would have been the leader.
Okay,
What the heck? If the caution didn't come out for Michael McDowell, Matt Kenseth would have went to Homestead.
And Kyle Busch wouldn't have even been in the Final 4.
No, he would have been in because Harvick would have passed Logano.
He hadn't yet. And
he was about to.
Oh, how do you know that? The stats aren't going to tell you what he's about to do.
Were you there? Were you there?
Oh, boy.
I could see it in his eyes. I was watching.
So we have established you guys ranking your number 4 is Joey Logano, and we both have said Kyle Busch. Okay, good. I think we're off to a really good start here. Andy, I'm glad you came. You know what I mean? This is working out really well. Okay, so now let's go to our number 3. Let's just go same rotation. Max, who's your number 3 when you rank the Championship 4?
My number 3 is going to be Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, based on body language, I'm guessing Russell's number 3 is?
We're going to stay the same over here, and let's see what they do
Yeah.
over there. I go Jimmy Johnson as well.
Okay. Give me a little bit on why. Why number 3 on Jimmy Johnson?
Simply for this year, I don't think they've had the same speed that they've had in years past, certainly going back to their championship years. I think they've missed a little something there, especially compared to the JGR cars at mile-and-a-half tracks. Those guys have been outstanding this year, and so those two guys rank ahead of Jimmy for me.
Okay. Where are you going, Andy?
I almost have to agree with them on the speed and the momentum, and he has had speed at times.
Sure.
I mean, he wins at Texas.
Hey, look at the chase.
Martinsville. He has speed.
He was fast last week,
But
too.
when he went to Texas, we expected him to be fast, and he wasn't. So that's kind of on your side. And then last week, he was just so-so and got into a little bit of a
Same
bump
tire
up.
as Texas, too.
Same tire as Chicago, though, where he led all those laps. So.
Well, I didn't say.
Okay, I'm just trying to help.
Now, I know this is just a ranking thing. This is not where our heart and minds
absolutely,
are.
just rank them. Yep.
So I'm gonna have to agree with the boys. I put Jimmy Johnson in.
You
number
put Jimmy
3 for me.
Johnson
Yep.
third. Really hard for me. Really hard for me. But I think my number 3 is going to be Carl Edwards. Mm-hmm. And it's hard because we did a thing on Hub Monday night, and each of us, AJ and Larry were in as analysts, and Danielle and I joined them, and we each took a driver and kind of made our case for them. And I had Carl Edwards, and I kind of let everybody else pick who they wanted, and so it didn't really matter. I could sell any of these guys. But my sell on Carl Edwards was the strength they had at Texas on this tire. And I do
Chicago,
think there's
right?
Yeah, and Chicago too. And I do think there's something to be said for that. And when you look top to bottom statistically for these guys, Carl is really, really good at Homestead.
Great
It's
numbers.
a great race track for him.
And he has the best pit crew, too. All
does,
year. His pit crew has been the best.
And
they
You
won
get
the
to
race
see
at
these
Texas.
stats, these pit crew stats. Then they're very accurate and they're real time. And do they consistently rank in the top 3 or 4?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Gibbs across the board, but the 19 for sure.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of those intangibles. I won't say you forget about it, but I think this weekend it's magnified because we all know it's very likely going to come down to that. And if it doesn't, you're going to have some significant calls to be made on the pit box and a cycle of green flag pit stops. We saw that come into play at Texas. I mean, that could be.
So who is your number 3?
So my number 3 is Carl Edwards. My number 3 is Carl Edwards.
And the other argument against Carl Edwards, he's won the pole 6 times this year. That number 1 pit stall is going to be huge this week.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I know I'm crazy because my bottom 2 guys are the 2 guys from Gibbs. I know that's insanity, but that's where I'm going. Kyle Busch, number 4. Carl Edwards, number 3 as I rank them. Okay. Let's go to number 2 on the board. You guys over here both went.
Go ahead, Max.
Went Joey Logano, Jimmy Johnson, 4 and 3. Who's in the number 2 hole?
I'm guessing my number 2 might be a little different because Russell tends to go on the stats, but I have Carl Edwards as my number 2.
Okay. And you go number 2?
I was going to say Carl Edwards, but I'm going to go Kyle Busch.
You're going to go Kyle Busch. You had to mix it up.
Yeah.
All right. And why do you say Kyle Busch is number 2? Why not number 1?
I just for what I said before, that pit crew at the end, that's going to be the difference, I think.
Okay,
That
so
last stop will be the difference.
So your number 1 is the defending champ, Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Okay. Your number 2 is Carl Edwards. Then
Yep.
it goes Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano. You go Carl Edwards number 1, Kyle Busch number 2, Jimmy
Right.
Johnson, Joey Logano. Your bottom 2, Kyle was at the bottom. Jimmy Johnson was in the 3 hole. Who's your 1-2 here, Andy?
Well, I have to admit that Russell's giving me a really good argument here because I was really on the fence about Logano or Edwards as a champion. Logano's got the momentum. You could argue that Carl does too, but the pits I think comes down to that pit stop. I think that's a tiebreaker for me. So I'm going to rank, as much as I don't want to, I'm going to rank Joey number 2, and Carl Edwards my number 1.
It's interesting that a lot of us, when we got to the round of 8, didn't have Carl going to the Final Four. I mean, and now here we are. I'm sorry, Max. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Big Mac over there. Big Mac had him in his Final Four originally.
They're
We're not
around here
getting the sheets
somewhere.
out.
We get
We're
the
not getting the
sheets
sheets
He
out.
wrote 19 instead of 18. He screwed up.
Yeah,
It was a typo.
So here's how I rank my final 2. I said the bottom 2 are Kyle Busch, Carl Edwards, and Kyle's 4th, Carl is 3rd. I go Jimmy number 1, and I go Joey number 2.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult for me. I I just think Joey has really shown us something this year. And with his back against the wall, that this team has proven they can get it done. And I think there's some real hunger and some undone business from what happened there 2 years ago, and I think he and that team sense it. I think there's a real quiet confidence in that 22 camp. So I like Joey. But I think when you look at Jimmy Johnson, they were good on the 1.5 miles, pretty good with his tire, at Chicago in particular. But the other thing I like, I know we talk about the Gibbs pit crews, 48 pit crew's been pretty good in the chase.
Yeah, been.
Right? Is he still number one?
We'll talk about that later. But
okay, yeah. So I just think there's a lot of underrated elements to that 48 team right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's no one better in the Sprint Cup garage at understanding now is the time than Jimmy Johnson. And I think everybody knows when it comes to winning a championship in this format, if you get to Homestead, you better take advantage of it because you may not get back there anytime soon. And Jimmy has seen that play out the last couple of years. I think the sense of urgency is higher than ever because they're there and an opportunity to get number 7. I would make him my number 1 seed going down to South Florida.
But
if I'm betting with my heart, I'm with you.
Yes.
But I can't go.
And the numbers don't say that for sure.
Well, the Texas run is what gets me with Jimmy. That Texas run was nothing what he expected and what we expected from him.
But he had won.
He had
before.
Well, okay, so that gives you a freebie. Go out there and try to win.
Tell me this, though, and I know we were on the week before Texas, and we had this conversation. They did some things strategy-wise that hurt them late, that made their finish look worse than what it really was.
But they weren't fast anyway.
They weren't great, but they would have been better. They would have been an 8th-place car, right?
Oh, 8th place won't get you anything.
He was 6th. Okay, right.
Sixth,
I'm with you.
6th,
But
8th.
let's 6th, 8th.
you.
Okay, but let's just say this: that they're playing some games, and they're working on that tire. And there was a little bit of a curveball thrown at all these teams because they raced at night when they were planning to run in the day. I just think there's a little bit there that you put an asterisk by that.
Well,
You agree
okay,
or
so maybe
disagree?
let's just say they were experimenting at Texas. They didn't learn anything to do. They may have learned something not to do, but that doesn't mean that they learned what they need to do.
I think that's a great point.
And I was on that same show we were talking about going to Texas, and I was all about Jimmy Johnson. I thought, okay, here he just won Martinsville. He's, Charlotte, here we're going to another 1.5 miles that he's dominated. And I was all about him. He was going to go there and win the thing. Yeah, they're going to try some new stuff, but it was going to work. Well, whatever they tried didn't work.
Hey, we talked last week going to Phoenix. Kevin Harvick, pretty much in a must-win situation. I mean, the number said he could point in, but we all knew he needed a win on Sunday if he was going to advance. He misses out. First time he's not made it to Homestead. And we've had the conversation. I don't know if we had it on the air, Andy, but we had it off the air. We talked about it in here. Who do you take going to Phoenix? Do you take Kevin Harvick or do you take the field? And I think it's a legit
That was
question.
a good bet, either way. Right.
And here's the deal. I mean, we said it last week. No one driver is as dominant at one track right now in the sport than Kevin Harvick is at Phoenix. Right. I mean, bar none.
Now you see why we run the races, though, right?
That's right. But they weren't, not only did he not win, which, hey, let's face it, great competition, but they just never got their feet under it.
I thought they were never a threat.
No, they weren't
At
a
any
threat.
point was I
He
saying,
didn't
well, he
lead a
might
lap.
pull it out.
He didn't lead a lap. And I think he's led over 100 laps in every trip to Phoenix since he joined Stewart-Haas.
Yeah.
So when you consider, which is a third of the race, by the way, so he didn't lead a lap. How surprised are we sitting here today, that Kevin Harvick, one, didn't advance, but number two, even bigger picture, really was never a huge part of the equation to get there.
I think if you had asked me at the beginning of the chase, I would have been shocked had you told me this discussion was going to happen. Going into the weekend, though, not that surprised. Watching him in practice all weekend, and then seeing what they had coming into the race, I didn't really expect them to be a threat to win going into that race on Sunday, so I'm not too surprised now. But
I think the pressure was way too high. Like, he's been expected to win there.
But he's been, really excelling under that pressure.
Yeah, he's
it's almost like he
it
thrived
comes to
on
an
it.
end at some point. Like,
Yeah, but
you
they just
can't
never
keep
were. I don't
winning
think they
on
were
that.
ever had speed, and I was totally shocked that they didn't.
So disappointment for Kevin Harvick because we all know what he's capable of at Phoenix, and we've seen him in that situation before, and just almost 100% in delivering with their backs against the wall in this format. Flip the script a little bit. I don't know that any of us, had said Matt Kenseth's going to go there and win the race. I mean, we knew certainly the Gibbs guys are strong there and he's capable, but that wasn't one that had as clear a path to victory lane as a Kevin Harvick. However, he was going to win. I mean, if we don't get that late caution, pretty much a no-brainer that Matt Kenseth wins. And you would think even once we went to overtime that he's in a catbird seat. The whole circumstance with Alex Bowman, Kyle Busch, there's contact and Matt's not clear and he gets into the wall. Higher level of frustration or disappointment for Kevin Harvick, who we expected to go there and be a much bigger player, or Matt Kenseth, who could see the sand in South Florida and now is going and running for Pride this weekend.
Go ahead.
I just thought that he had that thing in hand. Only thing I worried about was that 88 lining up on the inside and how much would he affect. I didn't see it happening the way it did, though. I mean, Bowman got such a terrible start.
I've not seen much of anything like that.
No,
I mean, that was one of the
I didn't see it
bizarre
happening.
crashes I've seen.
But I got to think that Matt was crushed.
Oh, yeah.
He had to be crushed. I mean, he just sitting here sailing. He's not seeing anything. I'm clear, hearing clear in his head. Turn down. I've got this. No, I don't got it. And now it's over like that.
Yeah.
And his teammate is involved.
And Kenseth was my pick last time we were in here to win that race. And I thought going into the weekend, the 20 and the 22 both had really good cars going into Sunday. Those were my two guys that I looked at saying they could really have a shot at this. And so I was here watching the race when it happened, and we were all shocked the way that went down. I think way bigger heartbreak for Kenseth than for Harvick.
I think so too, especially the way it came down. You said he could almost feel the sand in his toes.
Yeah,
that's right.
His mind was already in Miami, and that happened.
I mean, when you take into consider what happened last year with him not being able to advance because of a wreck when he was leading.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to feel like it's got to bring back all those feelings again.
I think there's a lot of disappointment, certainly for Matt Kenseth and Kevin Harvick. And I think we've, kind of come to know Kevin Harvick as the guy that just is almost unbeatable in this format of the chase. 2 consecutive years he gets to Homestead, won the title a year ago, all the walk-offs that we've talked about. And that might have been stealing some headlines from a guy that really deserves them in Joey Logano. Harvick's won 6 of the 29 races in this format. With his victory on Sunday at Phoenix, Logano's now won 7 of the 29 races we've had since going to this elimination format. And while it wasn't true back against the wall on Sunday, it wasn't must win, but it was a walk-off.
He had a lot of ways to get in. He was racing his way in before that caution came out with McDowell. And I thought that he was doing it under tremendous pressure. Mm-hmm. He had a couple of ways to go, but I was surprised that he was able to pull off victory.
But how do we view Joey? Joey said after the race, I won the Daytona 500, but because of everything that was on the line, this win is bigger than that one. How do we view Joey Logano now, considering how good he is in this format of the chase and what he was able to accomplish with so much on the line and get to victory lane on Sunday?
I think he's elevated his stature from a star to he's right there at being a superstar in this sport. And he's already won the Daytona 500, so he's not won the championship. This was probably the biggest win yet because it gives him another chance at it.
The thing that's crazy to think about is how young Joey Logano still is.
He's 26 years old.
He is a veteran in the sport by every measure in terms
he's
of
certainly
wins,
mature.
Races, years of competition. Mm-hmm. And to think that he's going to be around for another 15 years maybe, winning race, I mean, that's incredible to think about. And so I think it's kind of watching him now, it's kind of like just soak it in, because when we talk about him in 10, 15 years and he's got 70 wins, you're going to think back and be like, man, this kid had it from a young age. It's
and that's the thing. I think he's right there on that doorstep of being a superstar.
Yeah.
70 wins is a little.
We might be getting ahead of ourselves
Yeah,
a little
let's
bit.
slow down.
Why?
But he's got 17
give a good
and he's
reason why he can't.
26.
Yeah, but he won 17 in how many years? 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, but how many of those years were winless?
But he's
I'm
won.
still, he
he's
was in
won
the sport.
9 now in 2 seasons.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll say this: if this guy goes to Homestead this weekend and wins the championship, and I know the hierarchy this season when you talk about speed has changed a great deal, right? I mean, the Toyotas dominated the early portion of the year. The Chevys, and in particular, Hendrick Motorsports found speed in the chase. I don't know that we've ever put a lot of stock in the speed of those Penske Fords. And I'm not sure that we still are. I mean, I think they've gained ground and the separation's gotten better.
I don't think they're going to overpower anybody.
but-
I agree
but
with you.
But I don't think they have a lot of speed.
They
Right,
don't.
but my point is, if Logano goes and wins this weekend, you have to point to the guy behind the wheel and give a lot of credit there.
But look at the races they've won. They've won
A lot of plate races.
No
question. Yep, I agree with that. I agree totally
so
with
so
that.
we're not. He won at Michigan where we did an experimental package thing.
Yeah.
So it's.
But what did he do? What did he do Sunday? He took a third, fourth place car.
Yeah, but he
and
got
won.
a lot of
Still,
help.
he
with
was
that
right there
win.
too. He could have been
I
in the
agree,
mix.
I agree, but he
But he
got
took
a lot
a third
of
or
help.
fourth place car and won. That's what it takes. That's the kind of driver you're talking about. What Stewart did in 2011, he took a car that was not really capable of winning 5 races out of 10 in the chase and did it.
But not a lot of things happened for Stewart to win. Like the leader by a long shot didn't get wrecked for Stewart to win. Like everything had to happen exactly how it happened for Logano to win that race.
Yeah, I think it's early, and I'm not a big rush to judgment guy. But if he goes to Homestead and wins the championship, it's going to be pretty eye-opening.
I'd be the 5th youngest to ever win a championship.
Yeah,
We've
he's-
talked.
Pretty impressive.
We keep talking about Harvick never being eliminated in this chase format. If you go back to last year,
Logano shouldn't have been.
Logano should have won Martinsville.
I mean, he was going to win
and go
Martinsville,
to-
and he would have been at Homestead.
And
Absolutely.
so he's
it would have been his 4th consecutive win in the chase.
He's just as close in terms of how good he's been in the chase.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we got a couple minutes left. Let's do our championship picks. Let's start in the Camping World Truck Series, work our way around.
Ooh.
Max, who wins the title in trucks?
Look at that.
Ooh, who do we got? Who's available? Crafton.
You're going to go Matt
I
Crafton,
think
wins
Matt
his
Crafton.
3rd in 4 years.
Yeah, I like Crafton this week at Homestead.
All right.
This is like the most even field we have, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really paying attention to your pick.
So my pick
He's
is Johnny
usually wrong.
Sauter.
Johnny Sauter. And is that based on numbers or momentum or a little bit of
Both.
everything?
Both.
Yeah, okay. What do you think, Andy?
Well, after William Byron's not there, I mean that was my pick all along.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate he didn't
And
make it through.
heartbreak for him,
It was
yeah.
a heartbreak. But I'm with you. That truck won 2 in a row. They're carrying a ton of momentum into that race, and Johnny Sauter's due. It's his time.
Well, and just for you have Christopher Bell and Timothy Peters, right, as your other 2
Yeah.
available.
I really like Christopher Bell. I do.
I don't see him breaking through in
But I just
this race.
Well, when you look at that experience around him, and I think I agree with you guys. I like what Johnny Sauter's done late in the year, and I think he's in as good a place as he's ever been. And for that, I will pick Johnny Sauter. Let's go Xfinity, and keeping in mind Elliott Sadler without his crew
Without his
chief,
crew
Kevin
chief.
Mindring, who was suspended because of the lug nut deal. Who you picking? He and his team. It's going to be Junior Motorsports or Joe Gibbs. Which way you leaning?
I think we're going to see something like we saw in the Cup Series now that they're in this format where you're going to see those 4 championship guys all towards the front. It's just going to come down to who can outrun who. And for that, I like Eric Jones. I think he's got a lot of talent behind the wheel.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to Eric Jones or Daniel Suarez. So one of those two is going to win. And I don't want to agree with Max.
Way to
but
make
I
a
wanted
pick
to say
there,
Eric
Russell.
Jones.
tell
Yeah, way
ya.
to jump out there.
Yeah, boy, the limb strong out on the
Yeah.
end there.
Well, let's hope
Where-
it's strong
where you
enough for
going?
one more. You can't outrun those Toyotas in that series. Those Toyotas have been too strong. So one of those two is going to win it. And this time I'm going to bet with my heart, Daniel Suarez.
I'll
I've been
say
saying
this.
Be a
Eric
great
Jones is
story,
probably
huh?
Let me
the
say,
favorite.
no matter who wins the Xfinity Championship, and this is always true, but when of any series, but when you look at those 4 guys, there are 4 really good stories waiting to be written on Sunday morning there. I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to pick Elliott Sadler to win the championship. This guy's meant so much to the sport. He's won in every series, but he's never won a title. He's without his crew chief. I know it's a long shot, but there has just been something magical to me about that team and him and Dale Jr. and their relationship and how it came together. I would feel a lot more confident if Mindering were there on the box, but I'm going to pick Elliott Sadler.
That would be a great story.
It would be.
Yeah.
You got Suarez and Eric Jones are bound to have a ton more success in their careers. I think after you've seen all that Elliott Sadler's done throughout his career in the Cup Series and now having a chance to win a championship, I think it'd be a pretty cool story.
He deserves it.
All right, Cup picks. Who's going to be the Sprint Cup champion? And we already unveiled our number 1, so I assume that's how we'll all go. I don't know.
No. Those were my power rankings, but my pick, I had Kyle Busch as my number 1 favorite going in, but I'm going to go with Jimmy Johnson as my pick. I think
Okay.
there's going to be a little magic down there. I think he may not have the fastest car, but Chad will figure something out with a pit strategy, or Jimmy will figure out something, and they'll pull that horseshoe back out, and I think they get their 7th.
So I think it's going to be close with Jimmy Johnson and a Gibbs guy. I'm not sure which Gibbs guy it's going to be.
Boy, you
but
know-
God, so he's got 3 in this
Yeah,
series.
that's right.
Jeez.
But you look at the Gibbs guys, that's the strongest team overall. So those guys have the other 2 teammates to pull from, Hamlin and Kenseth, when they're going to be testing everything out for them. So one of those 2 is going to have the advantage going in, and then it's going to be Carl Edwards is going to win because of that pit stop at the end.
Okay.
Okay, this one when we were talking about power rankings and numbers, and I had Jimmy down towards the bottom of my 4, but I'm with you. I think this winning the 7th championship is big. I think he's great on the big stage, and doesn't get much bigger than this to win the championship and tie 2 greats in Earnhardt and Petty for 7 championships.
He was my number 1 when it comes to power rankings, and I just think all the intangibles add up and say Jimmy Johnson gets number 7.
Heck, I don't think we need to go now.
Yeah, that's
We've already
right.
figured
Call
this
it.
out.
They don't even. Yeah, let's save the travel expenses. All right, Andy, good to have you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
So take your mic off. Be careful because we just don't need any audio mishaps here. We got to bring CJ in. You know what I mean? Let's make this a clean transition. We've never done this before. Do we have a tight shot on Andy here taking this mic off?
Just hang on.
Andy Petree, great job in his HUBCast debut. And welcome back from his 2-week hiatus. CJ's here.
I don't have my table. Everybody's like, well,
That's okay. This looks very.
Andy doesn't even stick around.
How much?
He
What do we got?
just
About
leaves the
3. We
studio.
got about 3 minutes. Ben, is that what my clock says? 3 minutes. All
You
right.
actually see my cheat sheet. Look at
Yeah,
all
I'm not
these
going to look
great
at your questions. What are your questions today? Let's go through them.
Today. So the first one, thanks everybody, by the way, for voting for their championship picks. I went through and I was counting. I was keeping tally.
All right.
And according to the viewers, they have Carl Edwards first,
Carl Edwards 1.
Jimmy Johnson
Somebody
second,
listens
Jimmy
to me.
Johnson 2nd.
third is Joey Logano,
Logano, Kyle
and then
Busch.
fourth is Kyle Busch.
Wow,
And-
okay, that's
But
surprising.
one of no, actually I mixed that up. Third is Jimmy Johnson. Sorry. Second
Okay.
was Joey Logano.
Okay.
I just couldn't find my
Really?
comment.
Okay. Good.
But a lot of people just voted anyone but Kyle Busch. That was probably
Yeah,
the
sure.
I get that.
But we get that a lot. So the first question is from Jack Ritchie in Scottsville, Virginia. Does Alex Bowman bounce back after such a strong weekend at Phoenix?
I think he'll be okay, but I just think when we get to Homestead, history has shown it's about those 4 guys running for the title. I don't think Alex is going to do anything to make himself look bad, but I would not put a lot of stock in Alex winning this weekend, and it has nothing to do with Alex Bowman. It has to do with the fact that so much is on the line with those other guys, and I just think they're going to take it to a new level.
I think the bounce back would be more to watch what happens maybe next year if he finds himself in a Cup car again, to see how he bounces back, how he can compete after, I think, a really solid year this year.
And let's say somebody step up. If you got a little money and support this guy, he deserves an
He's good.
opportunity. Cup, Xfinity, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and Alex, he's been in the stream with us before, so great job at Phoenix. It was fun kind of watching him along for that one. Tony King in California says, and I don't think this is really possible, but he wants to know, would you rather see the season finale be somewhere different every year?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that's true of the All-Star race. I think it would be fun to rotate the All-Star race, take it to some different markets, kind of like what we see in Major League Baseball or the NBA. But with Homestead, I just think it's so unrealistic that that's going to happen. I think it'd be cool. I'm not sure that that's something we're going to see.
I'll say this
anytime soon.
for Homestead, it's a great track for this kind of race.
Is.
There's nothing too wild card about it. It's pretty fair. There's multiple grooves. It's going to be competitive racing. The way the track is makes for exciting races, and you don't get that at every track. And I think trying to mix it up, I think you kind of run the gamble of not having an exciting race, where I think at Homestead you tend to have that kind of race.
I'd like to mix up the other races, other tracks in the Chase, but not Homestead. I like it at Homestead.
Yeah, and good weather venue. Realizing rain is always going to be a threat in South Florida, but if you're going to go and spend time watching the championship unfold, you can kind of vacation in and around it, which I think is a nice perk.
And that kind of ties into Jedediah's question as well. You guys kind of already answered it. He did say, when will we see NASCAR shake up the tracks in the Chase? One came in from Becky in California, a non-NASCAR question. Does anybody have their Christmas trees up yet at home?
I don't have my Christmas tree up. but we are getting decorations out as we speak.
My wife put ours up the day after Halloween.
Okay, well,
November
there you
1.
go.
Always happens.
No tree up yet for me, but I have listened to some Christmas music. I love Christmas music.
Would you like me to sing some to you right now?
I would
Lex?
love that.
Okay.
That-
Go ahead.
Yeah.
What's
We
your
could
favorite
cover that.
Christmas
okay.
song?
I'm waiting on it.
I don't know.
Your favorite Holly Jolly Christmas by Burl Lives is pretty good.
That is good. Maybe
That's a good one.
Next week's HUBcast. We
That's
might
I
break
feel
that
it feels
out.
like a topic. And then the last one.
Yeah, last question.
Jake in Vermont. Which race do you think will be the most dramatic this weekend? He believes the Truck Series is going to be wild, and that's on FS1 7:30 Friday night.
Ooh, good plug. Management's
look
really
at
going to
that.
like you for that. And you can also watch it
Company
on Fox
man.
Sports Go.
Fox
Huh?
Sports goes. See, always.
I'm going to tell you, yeah, it's hard to argue with the trucks. I mean, that will be a dogfight. And the thing I like about the truck race is it's shorter, 200 miles. Those guys just don't have much time to get away from each other. Hard to bet against the truck race maybe not being the most dramatic of the weekend, but all three will be good.
I think the Cup race is going to be the most exciting, simply because the drama that can unfold both on the track and on pit road. You're talking about some pretty tight times with pit crews and how competitive they are, and plus you got a number of other competitive cars on the track that are looking to run well. I think that'll be the most exciting of the weekend.
See, I actually think the Xfinity race is going to be the most exciting
you
because
go.
I think Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez are going to be so at each other that it's going to come down to lap after lap. And then you're going to have some Cup guys in that too that are going to mix that up as well. So I think it's,
I'll say this. What to me, stars sell in any sport. And we all know the biggest stars are running on Sunday. And it doesn't matter who wins this championship. We are just going to have so much material to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
From Joey Logano, as you said, being the fifth youngest at 26, and everything that he could accomplish going forward with his career if he could continue to lay this strong foundation and win a title this early. Carl Edwards, who tied and missed out 5 years ago, if he could get redemption with Joe Gibbs, first year with a new crew chief. Kyle Busch trying to repeat, something that we've not seen a lot of in the history of the sport, a driver winning back-to-back, and certainly the biggest storyline that could come out of Homestead.
happened a bunch. But
Well, how many times? 11 times the guys went back-to-back? 11
well, it
times?
depends. It's 10 different guys have done it, but like you've seen Johnson win 5 in a row.
But
Caleb's
I don't-
won 3 in a row.
I'm talking about a driver winning successive championships. I don't count Jimmy's back-to-back-to-back. That doesn't count as 5. That counts as one guy doing
but
it.
it's still a
Counts
lot
four.
of times it's
Yeah.
happened.
How did I know
in
I'd get
history,
resistance
you
on
know?
So do I get to be the tiebreaker though on the most
So-
dramatic race?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
I thought you said trucks.
Well, that's trucks because it's on FS1.
Okay,
so.
that's good.
It is going to be a really good race.
Hey, it's
I
going to
may
be a
be
fun
biased.
weekend. And
See you there.
our schedule's a moving target. We get FaceTime. I'm not going to be down there, but we get FaceTime if you want. But we do hope to be back and wrap up the season next Tuesday. Check your local listings. In the meantime, watch NASCAR Race Hub. Have a great weekend, everybody.